draft is different, but is there a common theme between your first draft picks together?
Yeah, these guys are great competitors. That's what's really what we went in to find, and we want guys that really want to battle to the man. You know, that's what we were able to find. We're going to stick to that as best we can, because we know that that's the makeup of the club that we want, and you got to do it one guy at a time.
Well, that is a wrap on the 2025 NFL Draft Weekend. And no matter when you are drafted, like Max Crosby in the 4th round, you have to make a difference, and you can do that in training camp and beyond. Welcome in for our Channel 13 post-draft special. I'm Nick Walters.
And I'm Taylor Rocha. And boy, Nick, what a weekend it was. Over the past 3 days, we've seen so many dreams come true for players across the country. Let's take a look inside the moments that changed their lives forever.
John Spytek in Vegas, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Enjoy the moment, man. We're about to make you a Raider.
Yes, sir.
As Mr. Davis would love me to say, welcome to the dark side, my friend.
Let's go, baby.
You with your family?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. I hope they're excited. They ready to wear some silver and black because you're about to be a Raider.
Hey, you're getting a dog, man. Let's go. Thank you very much.
And I know you're going to have a freaking great time here at the Raiders, man. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Coach.
Hey,
Can't wait to get
let's hear it for little Jack, man.
Sure if there's anything you can share about the phone calls that you guys make with the players after you draft them, but what does that moment mean to you when you're able to talk to them and change their lives, give them a moment that they've been dreaming of forever?
Caleb was so excited he hung up on Coach. So he got over there, he wasn't even there.
What happened? He's in trouble with it. I want you to know that.
It's cool. You know, everyone's a different experience. Every kid's got a different personality. Sometimes they've got a million people in the family yelling in the background and the kid can't hear, and sometimes you can hear the hush, hush, hush. And
take us to where we want to go. We want to get back to the playoffs and win Super Bowls here, okay?
Super Bowl's on the way.
It's such a special moment in their lives. They've worked so hard to be there, and you think about the amount of people that actually get drafted in the NFL. It's so minuscule to the amount of people that actually play football, and to have a small part in that and to share in that moment with them is pretty special. It's my first time doing it, and I've enjoyed all 5 so far.
This will be so much fun for you and for all of us. So congrats to your family and everybody that's there at the party. Tell them that the Raiders are bringing you on in. All right.
Yeah, it was really fun. It's such a moment, you know, and it's hard for us to picture what it means to these guys to finally get that call, you know, and so we're just trying to make it as special as possible for them and memorable too, and so it's a great moment in this whole process.
Well, 257 dreams came true in this year's NFL Draft, 11 of which by the Las Vegas Raiders. Here's a look at the picks Pete Carroll and John Spytek made in their first draft together as the Silver and Blacks' new regime. At the top, in the first round with the 6th overall pick, the Heisman Trophy runner-up, Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. And after 2 trade backs on day 2, Pete Carroll picks up a wide receiver in TCU wide receiver Jack Bech. And how about adding to Patrick Graham's defense? Later, just 10 picks ahead, Iowa State cornerback Darian Porter. And then we have Texas Tech offensive tackle Caleb Rogers. And at 99, William & Mary offensive tackle Charles Grant. 2 straight offensive tackles to add to Chip Kelly's offense. And now later, fast forwarding into day 3, and if Max Crosby can become a superstar after being a 4th round pick, you can just have to know any pick can make a difference with this year's team. All right, starting off, we have Tennessee wide receiver Dante Thornton, and then we have South Carolina defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway, and in round 6, Ole Miss defensive tackle J.J. Pegues, and later in the 6th as well, back-to-back quarterbacks in Montana State quarterback Tommy Mellott and North Dakota State quarterback Cam Miller. Now, ESPN actually did have Mellott as a wide receiver, so he is a versatile guy. And finally, to wrap up this Raiders draft class, Minnesota linebacker Cody Lindenberg. But let's go ahead and take a look at these selections from today's draft as we roll in to this offseason for John Spytek and Pete Carroll's Raiders. All right, well, Las Vegas started off day 3 by adding a classic Raiders wide receiver, and Al Davis would love this kid. It's Tennessee wide receiver Dante Thornton in the 4th round at pick 108. And this volunteer is big and fast. Thornton is a 6'5" wideout and runs a 4.340, the fastest of any receiver in this class. The speedster leading the nation in yards per catch. If Jack Bech has toughness, Thornton has the traits to grow into Pete Carroll's new DK Metcalf.
Being a deep threat down the field with like a big guy that's fast, I say just bringing a good player into the program, like a guy that's going to do whatever it takes to make the program better in any aspect. I say I model my game after Kelvin Johnson now. Julio Jones, and then more like lately, I've been like watching a lot of Nico Collins. I've been trying to emulate a lot of things that he showed. And I'm very excited. Like I feel like we have the potential to be a very explosive offensive overall team in general. So I'm definitely excited.
Well, the Raiders' war room were far from finished making calls today.
Yeah, the Raiders came right back leader in the 4th round to add to Patrick Graham's defense, taking South Carolina defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway at pick 135. This is a large man, 6'3", 284 pounds. It's a honky-tonk on the interior D-line. Hemingway looking to add disruptive depth behind Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler.
Being part of the Raider Nation, it just feel good. Like they're gonna get my all for sure. You know, it was just a crazy excitement and just ready to get started.
Spytek is showing he likes his D tackles from the South. In their next pick at 180 in the 6th round, the Raiders snatch another SEC DT in J.J. Pegues out of Ole Miss at 180. Now, this powerful 6'2" lane clogger has some refrigerator Perry in him, toting the rock in the Rebels Wildcat formation to score 8 touchdowns in his college career. So if Jeanty wasn't enough of a goal line threat, just imagine 324 pounds rolling downhill at you.
Nightmare. Later in the 6th, sound the alarms. The Raiders draft a quarterback. And not just one, but 2, both from FCS schools. It's Montana State quarterback Tommy Mellott at pick 213 and Peyton Award winner for the best player in the FCS. 2 picks later at 215, another small school gunslinger in North Dakota State's Cam Miller, who set school records and won 2 national titles with the Bison. The Raiders cap off their draft with Minnesota linebacker Cody Lindenberg in the 7th. Let's take a quick look to see where our local prospects landed in the draft. All eyes were on UNLV's Jackson Woodard and Ricky White this season, with many expecting the Rebels to be selected in later rounds of the draft. Ricky White was drafted late in the last round with the 254th overall pick to the Seattle Seahawks, becoming the first Rebel drafted since 2010.
Congrats to those Rebels. All right, stay with us. When we come back, we learn more about one of the Raiders' newest wide receivers and why his selection in this year's draft meant more than just football. Welcome back to our post-draft special. Okay, now in a journey filled with heartbreak and hope, TCU wide receiver Jack Bech's NFL dream became a reality Friday night.
After trading back twice in the 2nd round, the Raiders found their next wideout at number 58. It's a moment that means more than football after the loss of his brother, Tiger.
For Jack Bech, hearing his name called wasn't just a dream come true. It was a tribute to his brother, who was killed in the Bourbon Street attack on New Year's Day.
The Las Vegas Raiders select Jack Bech, wide receiver, Texas Christian.
I don't even know if there are words to describe this feeling and the emotions that not only myself but my family are going through. Just surreal. It wasn't my dream. Only it was my brother's dream too, and our dream came true tonight. Now I just can't wait to get to work.
Bech plays with a relentless edge, one he says is fueled by his brother's memory.
All my emotions I let out on the field. I'm not scared to go put my nose in there, go crack a safety, go crack a linebacker. I love coming across the middle of the field, catching the rock, know I'm about to get hit. I think that's where my dog mentality comes into play.
Now he'll bring that fight to a new era of Raiders football, led by Super Bowl champion head coach Pete Carroll.
Coach Pete Carroll, he's a legend. To be able to play for him, that's just another dream come true. I've been watching Coach since I was a kid.
And when he takes the field, the 22-year-old Louisiana native won't be alone.
Obviously, losing my brother has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. I've been able to stand strong in light of him and be that rock for my family.
A new chapter for Jack Bech, written with his brother's spirit every step of the way.
Well, it was an incredibly emotional night for Jack Bech, honoring his brother's memory as he takes the next step in his football journey.
Now the Raiders are ready to put his talent to work, adding a tough, reliable playmaker to their offense. Bech has some of the surest hands in the draft, dropping just 1 pass all last season at TCU for over 1,000 receiving yards. But it's his physical edge that really stands out, something Pete Carroll says will be a huge addition to this offense.
He's about as fired up as a receiver can get, as far as being physical and crazy and wild and wants to be on special teams and the whole thing. So we'll find it out, where the best fit is for him, but he's very, very much ready to do whatever we want.
Well, Taylor, it was an entertaining draft, to say the least, for the Raiders, and the 2 trades back on Friday really was the headline. But even though there were some good players selected today, I think the headline is 2 quarterbacks in a matter of 3 picks, with Montana State quarterback Tommy Mellott and North Dakota State quarterback Cam Miller.
I think the Raiders scouting department deserves a raise. They're looking everywhere for these guys that fit this Pete Carroll, John Spytek mold, and I'm really excited to learn more about these guys, watch some film. Look at me. Watching film. But Nick, what do you think of these picks?
Well, heading into day 3, I think any Raider fan had their sights set on some quarterbacks like Will Howard out of Ohio State, Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame, Quinn Ewers out of Texas, and out of that list, Ewers was the only one left on the board. Shedeur Sanders-Slide had stopped being selected by the Browns. And with Ewers still on the board, the Raiders pull off a shocker with not just 1, but 2 FCS quarterbacks. And just for more background here, Mellott, he was the Walter Payton Award winner, which is given to the best player in the FCS. And meanwhile, Miller, he had led the Bison to 2 national championships, and he had broken several records for that program and was the all-time leader in passing yards for North Dakota State. So some good competition behind Geno Smith along with Aiden O'Connell.
Right, and I love that they're drafted back-to-back. It just really plays into, we've said it a million times in our specials, Nick, but the competition that Pete is trying to make a part of this team's culture. So we saw it with the offensive linemen a little bit earlier in the draft. We see it again with the quarterbacks, but it's going to be cool to watch these guys kind of grow up in the organization together, learning a lot from Geno Smith, you know, who obviously has the reins this season, Nick.
Yeah, and listen, we saw highlights of Miller facing Colorado, and it was Shedeur Sanders, who for months we thought could be the Raiders' new first-round draft pick. He ended up sliding 5 rounds, being picked by the Browns, and the Raiders had multiple chances to pick him, but didn't. But Cam Ward was selected first overall in this draft. I think some Raider fans would say that this is the biggest Cam selection at quarterback through the entire draft. But yeah, very interesting things to keep in mind with that quarterback room as we head into a new era for Raiders football.
Well, coming up, we go back to the early days of the Raiders' first-round pick and learn what makes Ashton Jeanty such a powerful weapon for the Silver and Black. Stay with us. When the Raiders went on the clock at number 6, they had a choice, and to them, Ashton Jeanty wasn't just the right pick, he was the perfect one. A Heisman finalist, a 2,600-yard rusher, and a record breaker. Jeanty dominated college football in 2024, but it's not just his stats that stand out, it's the way he plays.
With the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Ashton Jeanty, running back.
I think my favorite, somebody said that, you know, I was a rolling ball of knives.
That edge was sharpened from an early age in a journey that started far from home in Naples, Italy, where he played his first football games at a military base inside a dormant volcano. How did growing up in a military family shape you as a person and as a football player?
Yeah, it shaped me really well, handling adversity, always dealing with change, and, you know, I think that, you know, it's kind of a lot like football.
After years of long bus rides and even longer odds, Jeanty returned to Texas, broke through at Boise State, and turned himself into one of the most feared players in the country. Discipline, faith, and family remain at the core of who he is, rooted in a simple message: never lose sight of where you come from. And that includes a special connection to his number 2.
I was born on December 2nd, so that's the day greatness was born. But also all my family, you know, my older brother, uncle, it's kind of like the family number.
Now the 5'9", 216-pound wrecking ball brings that fire to Vegas, even if he'll need a little extra gear for the desert.
I'll start wearing some sunscreen now or something, you know, once he gets hot.
His relentless style caught the Raiders' eye early, but so did his love for the game. GM John Spytek called Jeanty's passion impossible to miss throughout the draft process. And he's already ready to do whatever this team asks.
I don't know how much you plan to have me in the passing attack, but...
When
When Pete Carroll watches him run, the legendary head coach sees flashes of Marshawn Lynch, the heart of his Super Bowl team in Seattle, and the legend Jeanty grew up modeling his own game after.
He's got that marvelous ability to just, on any play, he can score.
I've always been a fan of Marshawn. He's one of the first running backs that I watched. So to kind of have that support and, you know, him showing love, it's everything.
But Jeanty isn't just a running back. He's a dynamic, tough-as-nails playmaker who can carry the offense and carry a team's culture with him, earning praise from legends like Barry Sanders along the way. A rolling ball of knives, a son of discipline and dreams, and now a key piece of the Raiders' future. The Raiders spent most of the draft stacking weapons on offense, but they didn't forget about the other side of the ball. In the 3rd and 4th rounds, Las Vegas added cornerback Darian Porter and defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway, 2 big physical pieces to help rebuild the defense.
Yeah, first of all, Taylor, Jackson Powers Johnson said that Ashton Jeanty runs like he's angry at the turf. And that's like the best description I've heard of his game. Excited to have him. But as you mentioned, if you know Pete Carroll's history, you know that he likes tall defensive backs. It's how he built the famed Legion of Boom defensive corps in Seattle to help the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. Its biggest star, cornerback Richard Sherman. Now, if Ashton Jeanty can be Beast Mode 2.0, then Carroll might have just drafted Richard Sherman 2.0. The Raiders took Iowa State corner Darian Porter in the 3rd round, standing at 6'3", the same height as Sherman, and he's got a 6'8" wingspan. Porter is an athletic specimen. His RAS score of 9.99 out of 10, ranking 4th out of 2,761 cornerbacks since 1987. While he's still new to the position, the Raiders' first defensive addition to this draft can make a big impact in the compete transition.
We've drafted a lot of corners over the years, and we've always looked for guys that are really fast and guys that are really long and tall because of the style of the way we coach him. The Darian that we took, you know, he's a lot like Richard Sherman was. There's a lot of similarities in the makeup of these 2 kids, and if you notice, you'll see Darian when you see his highlights and see him play and all that, he attacks the football really comfortably, and that means that he's at ease when the ball's coming in. And so I don't think he had a penalty last year, you know, and that's a huge accomplishment. You know, what we do is we give him a real style of play. You know, we teach him how to play on the line of scrimmage, and so there's a real style to it, and there's a real technique and skill to it that we share with these guys. And if they have the right makeup like that we're looking for, then, you know, we can bring them along quickly.
Stick around. When we get back, we'll take a look at how the silver and black added to their O-line depth. Stay with us.
Welcome back into our post-draft special. Okay, so Pete Carroll and John Spytek's first draft together in Las Vegas is in the books. It was Carroll's 19th draft as a head coach and Spytek's first as the lead man at GM. Their 11-pick haul made Raider Nation optimistic for the future, and Taylor, it certainly would make someone named Geno Smith a happy man. It wasn't just the wide receiver additions of TCU's Jack Bech in the 2nd round and Tennessee's Dante Thornton in the 4th that is adding to Geno Smith's weaponry in Chip Kelly's offense. It's the Raiders' 6th overall pick, Ashton Jeanty, that could even make a bigger impact. The Heisman runner-up standing next to Geno in the backfield will help the Raiders' new QB win in more ways than just taking handoffs. Jeanty's presence alone will make life easier for Smith. The ground game helping him connect through the air with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, and these new draft additions. Pete Carroll tells me he's a big believer in running, helping passing.
Pete, obviously it's no secret that the Raiders have had their quarterback struggles over the years, but at the Combine you were talking about how a running game can be a quarterback's best friend. So from your experience with Geno Smith in Seattle, how can Ashton Jeanty help Geno Smith?
This is precisely, and it won't be just Ashton. It'll be the running back group that'll contribute to make this happen, because it takes a good 3 guys usually in the rotations to make that happen. And but it's the consistency of the emphasis that you place on the defense that they have to continue to try and stop the running game, and that allows all of the opportunities for Chip to do his magic, you know, and that's the play action games. It's all of the stuff that comes off of the run game, and all of that is not that doesn't draw any focus on the quarterback. None of those things you're thinking about the QB when you're worrying about the running game and you got to get it stopped and you're not sure where it's coming from, and that's what how you complement the quarterback's position and make it such that we're trying to make it easier on the quarterback because his job is the hardest in professional sports. So this is the key way to get that done.
Pete talking X's and O's just has my hair standing. Look, the Raiders did lose Alexander Mattison to the Dolphins in free agency and gained former Miami running back Raheem Mostert to provide veteran depth behind Jeanty. Amir Abdullah is currently a free agent.
And after loading up on playmakers, the Raiders closed out day 2 by fortifying the trenches, taking 2 offensive linemen back-to-back. Texas Tech's Caleb Rogers and William and Mary's Charles Grant bringing versatility, experience, and physicality to a group now tasked with protecting Geno Smith and clearing lanes for Ashton Jeanty.
It's well documented. I love my linemen, and I would have felt pretty bad if we didn't come out of the first draft here with at least a couple of them. We would have been doing it wrong. So I'm glad the board fell the way it did, and there were some guys there that we could add to the program.
Well, Taylor, Spytek saw the depth of this year's draft class and acted on it, trading back twice on day 2. What was your big takeaway from this year's draft?
I think there's one word: compete, right? I think I've said it till I'm blue in the face, but I really think that that's going to be the culture of this franchise moving forward.
Since they were introduced, they preached character and they stayed true to their word, adding toughness to this Las Vegas team, making it a good start to this Pete Carroll, John Spytek era. I'm Nick Walters. Thanks for joining us.